call, please.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland is absent. Commissioner District 2, Tim Sheldon.
Here.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Jeffries.
Here. Correspondence and organizational business. Could you please report the correspondence received?
Sure. Brian Gome and Barbara Harvey submitted letters regarding diving activities at Hidden Cove in Hoodsport. The Liquor Control Board sent a special occasion application for Shelton Mason Chamber of Commerce, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs sent information for proposed acquisitions of in-trust properties, parcel 42111-44-00000 and 42111-42-00060.
Thank you. I have a news release. We have a vacancy on our Veterans Advisory Board, and I will read the release. Mason County is seeking applicants who are veterans and a resident of Mason County to fill one vacancy on the Mason County Veterans Advisory Board for a member-at-large position. The Veterans Advisory Board is a 10-member board appointed to advise the Board of Commissioners on policy related to veterans assistance. The Advisory Board typically meets monthly on the second Wednesday at 10 a.m. at the Memorial Hall with the special meetings scheduled as necessary. The current vacancy will be fulfilling a balance of a 2-year term that will expire November 2017. Applications to serve on the board are being accepted until filled and should be submitted to the Mason County Commissioners, 411 North 5th, Shelton, Washington 98584. Application forms may be obtained from the Commissioner's office. Our phone number 427-9670, extension 380, or visit our website www.co.mason.wa.us. And in a related note, the Washington State Veterans Advisory Board, so the statewide board, will be meeting in Mason County at the Memorial Hall. Let me see if I can find that date real quickly.
It's the 28th.
The 28th of April. At
9 a.m.
9 a.m. So this is your chance to see your State Veterans Advisory Board in action at Memorial Hall. And I would encourage everybody that is a veteran to seriously consider this. There's a lot of things going on in the vet world right now, and especially here in Mason County, and so this would be a tremendous opportunity to shape veteran services in Mason County.
We have a capital budget appropriation this year for veterans of $206,000 for getting started on a project here. So there's a lot of things happening. Groups, the veterans have been really active, more active than I had ever remembered.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Commissioner Sheldon, for your work to get that $206,000 for veterans housing here in Mason County, and that was appropriated to Homes First, which is an organization based out of Olympia, but this project brings them into Mason County, so this is very exciting to have more partners in the affordable housing world here in Mason County. Is there any other correspondence or organizational business to come before the Commission?
No, there isn't.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to item number 5, and this is our open forum for citizen input. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Commission on any items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to address the Commission, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized, and we'll have you come up to the podium. State your name, if you'd like, your residence location, and just address the Commission. So, Mr. Churchill, I saw your hand go up first, so why don't you address the Commission?
Yeah, Randy Churchill, 6421 West Skokomish Valley Road. I'm here for the purpose to thank the Mason County Commissioners for putting In God We Trust up here. And I just want to give a brief history, and then I'll be done. But thank you very much for doing that, for taking the lead and standing for what America's principles are. Francis Scott Key in 1814 wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. The last verse, third to the last stanza was, "And this be our motto, in God be our trust." Act of Congress, January 8, 1837, prescribed this motto should be placed on all coins of the United States of America. July 11, 1955, President Eisenhower signed into Public Law 140, making it mandatory that all coinage and paper currency display this motto. 1956, President Eisenhower signed into law officially declaring "In God We Trust" as our national motto. And again, Commissioners Sheldon, Commissioner Jeffries, and Randy, you're not here, but I thank you very much for taking the lead and displaying that up there. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing, please. All those that are in favor of that, please just raise your hand right now for the commissioners.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Randy. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Sir.
I'm Howard Spear, 153 East Rolling Hills Drive in near Rockdale. I also want to say thank you for putting that motto up there. God is the one who is the source of everything that we have that's good, and it's right that we recognize Him as that source. Further, we're responsible to God for everything that we think, say, or do, and we need a lot of reminders of that. And so it is, as has been well presented, our national motto. And Mr. Solzhenitsyn, who was a Russian intelligentsia, was in prison for a number of years, and he told about his ancestors discussing, why do we have so much trouble in Russia? Why are we hurting so much? And they all finally concluded it's because we've forgotten God. And I'm afraid that's all too true of our nation. And we need many reminders that God's the source of every good and perfect gift, and that we're responsible to Him. So I thank you for putting that motto up there, and I hope that it will be a continual reminder of our responsibility and of His grace to us. Thank you.
I can appreciate everybody's enthusiasm, the applause. If we could keep this as a business meeting, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Did you have a comment?
No, I'm happy that people came. You know, it's an interesting topic. We also use this as a courtroom as well. So, it's interesting too to watch the difference in what we do at the county and what we do at the legislature. In the legislature, we open each session with a prayer, and we rotate our prayer between different religions. We've got just about any religion that you can think of represented in our state of Washington, and they all have a turn. And we open with the flag salute and the prayer in Olympia. So.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address Mr. Tarswell?
Good morning, Commissioners and fellow citizens. Pat Tarswell, 51 East Ann Arbor, Shelton, Washington. I'd just like to agree with everything. Thank you for putting that up there. But when we got up this morning, excuse me, we all stood and said the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a line in there that emphasizes that. We are one nation under God. We don't specifically call out one particular God or another, so that makes it a little bit more inclusive, but we were founded as a Christian nation. But it is a Christian nation that is inclusive. So we like to display this. We display it on all our money. We display it on all coins, all of those things. And we put it into, I don't know, but ironclad resolution basically right from our birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence, where we declared that all men are created equal and they're endowed, meaning we get our rights from our Creator. So since 1776 on, we have acknowledged that all rights come from God. They do not come from government, they do not come from man. So if they do come from another source other than God, they can be taken away. So this is just an acknowledgement that we trust in the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarswell. Ma'am.
My name is power in the whole world. And I think we have the reason we have declined from that position is because is specifically because we have turned our back on God. And so he is no longer the one in charge, and so our nation is going downhill. And I was not going to say this, but I will. The personal reason is because I personally know that God is alive. He spared my life from 3 near-death accidents, miraculously, and he healed me supernaturally 3 times when the doctors couldn't do anything. And one of them was healing my voice after being mute for 4.5 months, a total of 4.5 months. So God is very real, and I definitely want his name displayed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? No?
My name is Mary Lynn Taylor, and I live at 2271 East Timberlake Drive, West, and Shelton, Washington. And I'd like to thank you for putting the In God We Trust up there. We really appreciate that. And I wanted to say that the House of Representatives voted 396 to 9, reaffirming In God We Trust as the national motto of the United States in 11/1/11. So that's only 5 years ago. Crossing both sides of the aisle. So that means people, both Democrat and Republican, were reaffirming this as the national motto. And it says the House on Tuesday passed the measure reaffirming In God We Trust as the national motto of the United States in an effort to encourage its display in public buildings, that's here, and send a message to those who seek to remove it from the public domain. The resolution required a 2/3 vote to pass, easily did so. And we need to make it clear to the people of this country that our motto is In God We Trust. And we encourage them to proudly display that motto. And that was Randy Forbes, a Republican from Virginia, chairman of the Congressional Prayer Caucus and sponsor of the measure. So this is, what you're doing here is encouraged by 97% of the House of Representatives. So I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Thank you for coming down here. Sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Doug Coles, 100 East Treewater Place, Shelton, better known as Timber Lakes. I just wanted to remind the Commission and anyone in this room, the motto of Shelton is Christmas Town, USA. Christ, Christmas, get it? I do. I spent some time behind an M60 machine gun in Disneyland of the East. If it hadn't have been for my faith and trust in God, I probably wouldn't be standing here talking to you all. It's tantamount that we keep God in mind in all things that we do, especially when we're interacting with others. We take oaths, we pledge allegiance. Those things are done by God, and they're of God, and they're for God, and they need to be admonished, they need to be admired and adhered to, is my point. Anyhow, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Sir.
Thanks for having me this morning. My name is Brian Gaum. I actually reside in Lakewood, Washington, 11211 Lake Stilichum Drive Southwest, but been a property owner on Hood Canal since 1956. Grew up on Hood Canal, actually about 8 miles north of Lilliwap, in a community called Hidden Cove. Hidden Cove is a residentially zoned community. It's about a quarter mile south of Mike's Beach Resort, if you know the area. Hidden Cove, as I mentioned, is residentially zoned. And about 2.5 years ago, a group from Kaiser, Oregon, a gentleman named Mark Fisher, his wife Jane Fisher, own a company called Hydro Sports Dive and Travel. They formed a limited liability corporation, Hidden Cove LLC, and bought a single-family residence in our community. They have converted this residence into a scuba diving and certification business. This has gone on for almost 2.5 years now. We have sent countless letters, countless complaints, and I just wanted to bring it to the light of the commissioners here today. They've taken a single-family dwelling and converted the upper detached garage into a wetsuit drying room to accommodate up to 35 to 40 wetsuits. They have taken an attached garage and hidden an air compressor and heavily insulated it and vented it into the attic to reduce sound. They have taken the entire house and converted it from a single-family dwelling to bunk beds in both bedrooms below and bunk beds and partitioned off the living room for individual sleeping quarters, like with shower curtains for each person. They can accommodate up to 25 to 30 divers a weekend. This is a cash operation. They pay $130 a weekend cash to be trained to access the Hood Canal from Hidden Cove. The owner of this property denies this activity every time it's confronted. We know for certain, because we have photos of the inside of the cabin or the house showing the bunk beds, showing the compressor, showing the drying room. And over, we've gone through this. They're all from Oregon. It's a cash deal. All the money goes back to Oregon, and it's basically it's a community of scuba divers who are all one. They feel the right to, and this cabin is right on the Wiki-Tiki Marine Conservation Area. Mark Fisher has gone ahead and modified the bottom of this conservation area with concrete blocks and cables so his students and customers can pull their way along the bottom to access an octopus hole and access a wolffield location and then guide themselves back safely. He's been cited by the Department of Fish and Wildlife. He has a couple weeks to remove all the paraphernalia. But again, he has basically gone ahead and done this on his own accord and really has no plans to make any changes. There was a Scuba Diving Alliance float that had been put there about 5 years ago. He admitted cutting it to limit the access to that area by other dive boats, either from Mike's Beach or from Pleasant Harbor. Anyway, this has been a very point of frustration for the 20 property owners who have lived in this small community since, like I say, 1955. It's where I spent my formative years. And it's been very frustrating to see a business covertly operating every weekend with 25 or so divers. And I wanted to bring this to light with commissioners. I believe I sent you an email last week. Appreciate your response. And that's what I wanted to bring to light today. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing it up today again. We have received a lot of correspondence over several months about this issue, and I'm very happy that the Department of Fish and Wildlife is looking into it. I noticed that one of the documents that you sent us, I believe, was purported to come from them, so I don't know it personally, but it came from them, that they said that government enforcement is weak or non-existent. I'm paraphrasing. So they obviously know that the county that they're breaking the county's regulations and state regulations as well. So we're working on it, and I wish the enforcement action was completed and had gone much quicker. But we all, as you know, if you grew up there, we all hold the shoreline and what we have in Hood Canal in very high esteem. So
Can I add a couple
this is
things?
a neighborhood that doesn't deserve this.
I'd like to add a couple items. We have a person who's been on the inside, who's given us a lot of information. He's photographed the inside of the house. He's documented everything. We provided the information to the county, so it's all ready to go. This person, Mark Fisher, has been very open to the fact that he doesn't expect the government to act. He suspects by letting time go by, things will cool down, and he will proceed as usual. And it's the way they operate. Like I say, they're out of Oregon, everything goes back to Oregon, all the license plates are from Oregon, and it's a very frustrating environment. And there's a brotherhood, and they're all coached the week prior to their dive classes to, if confronted by authorities or confronted by property owners, they are only friends of the family. There is no money exchanged, and by all means, do not confront me. And it's a very interesting dynamic that's been going on up there, and it's reaching a boiling point, almost to the point of fisticuffs last weekend. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Gum, I thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. We will be meeting with our code enforcement folks, of which we're very understaffed on right now, but we will be bringing it up around what can the county do at our point, and then I think it should be a lot of pressure put on Department of Fish and Wildlife to see about compliance or removal of those cables. But we will be discussing it with our staff next Monday, and I believe Diane Zorn gave you that time frame, so in case you wanted to be part of that, but we will be acting on it, and I thank you very much for bringing it to our
The
attention.
Skokomish tribe has been very, very supportive also. They've been out, they also did a concurrent dive with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, discovered even more underwater apparatus, and they were also testing the runoff water from Fisher's septic tank, because it's a single-family dwelling with a single-family septic, and there's two access points into the canal, one at Hidden Cove, one on the other beach, and they'll be testing his runoff post big dive weekends. So they're very supportive. They're very upset about the modification of the marine conservation area, and they're very upset about the pollution going into the canal.
Does the Hidden Cove, is it a homeowners association?
No,
Okay.
it is residentially zoned, has been. We've tried to do that, but you need 100% compliance.
But you do have a community well, is that correct?
We have two wells, and I'm on Mark Fisher's well, and he has a sprinkling system, plus he's accommodating 25 to 30 people, and by the summertime, we have just a trickle of water. So there's 3 homes next to the Fisher residence that pretty much uses most of the water, and the water table's getting low up there. And there's a second well that accommodates the other side of the beach. So it's a delicate situation, to say, not to put lightly.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful area. You know, if you just go farther north where the state park is now, at Triton Cove, the next property north of Triton Cove in the 30s was owned by Zane Grey, the author. And
Catalina Island.
yeah, no, he had places all over the world. Writers were very, very rich in those days.
Nice.
And he didn't come here for no reason. I mean, people came because it is still so beautiful and unique. So I hope we can help. So
Thank you. I expect full retaliation by this group. So come with your best, because he will lawyer up in a heartbeat, and he's up to his eyebrows financially, and has coerced 2 people to help him, and they have everything to lose by not having this business go. So I expect full retaliation.
all right.
So
Well, thank you.
carry on.
Again, thank you for bringing it to our attention, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Walton. I'm a neighbor of Brian's at the canal there. At 101 Hidden Cove Lane, I think is where the cabin is. That's the address. I live in Oregon, live in Salem. I'm very familiar with this Fisher guy. Before I get started, though, I have to say, how you guys started this meeting is pretty moving. I mean, it's a breath of fresh air. In God we trust. I'm just going to say it. Well done. Amen, brother. I was like, wow. I mean, it's a breath of fresh, especially in this election cycle. You can get pretty cynical. You're kind of like, what is going on around here? But hey, Mason County, thank you for taking a stand here. So I would like to just echo what Brian had to say. Yeah, I think it goes further. I think Mason County's got a big problem. And, you know, Mason County's got a lot of every place has got issues and challenges and the lack of resources to take care of those issues. But what's happened now, because, and I believe, and I've checked into this within the diving community, is the diving community is perceiving Mason County is open for business. And I don't believe this is going to be an isolated case that we're fighting. I believe that there's a precedent been set. It's been for 2 years. So they believe that they have tantamount permission to carry on. And the dive community is pretty small, and so the canal's a precious place, they want access to the canal, and no one's saying here to deny the divers to get access to the canal. That's not what we're saying. Just play by the rules, that's all we're asking. But I believe the next move is someone else's houses come up for sale in the county all the time. And there's gonna be another business that's gonna try to buy that house and start a business there, and start another business there. It's going on. Why would we be different than the Fishers, for example? So I think the county has more at stake than just the Fisher case. There's a precedent been set. In fact, I'll go so far as to tell you a story quickly. I went to visit I know you guys been through Hoodsport, obviously, and there's that little dive store right there. It's got the red flag with a white slash on it. And I went in and talked to the guy and acted like, I just want to know what's going on. And he said, I asked him, I said, what's going on up there at the Hidden Cove? That's kind of a fishy deal going up there, no pun intended. And he goes, yeah, that was a big hassle about 2 years ago, but you know what? Everything is good. The county's good with it now. It's just a big misunderstanding with the neighbors. Everything is good. So really, from the diver community point of view, Mason County is open for business. Somebody else can buy, anybody else got a place on the canal? Or know somebody may want to sell? There may be a new buyer, an opportunity for them to start another business. So that's, I guess, the point I want to make today. It's that serious. Now, I want to say that we did spend some time with Barbara this morning. She was great, and she's looking to take some action immediately. So I think there's, again, I'm very enthused about what we've got going forward. So anyway, thank you, Mason County, for taking a stand on In God We Trust. I want to close with that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Mr. Walton, I just want to
Oh,
address.
I'm sorry.
Not at all. We had just had 2 industry roundtables around the tourism industry here in Mason County. Tourism is identified as one of the industries that we should probably help promote in Mason County. And this is an issue that we definitely need to probably address around, we're seeing on this a lot, an issue in rural communities where homes are opening up for Airbnb or VRBO or
Right.
Vacation rentals, and then the neighbors are impacted at some level. And so there are communities across the state across the country probably, that are trying to figure out how do you allow this entrepreneurialism and the ability for people to make an income here
Sure.
while protecting the neighborhood from
Sure.
commercial properties. And I know the cities like Port Townsend have considered, if they haven't already adopted certain regulations. We haven't gone that far, but it's definitely something that's bubbling up. And here in Mason County, where we don't have enough hotel rooms to serve the
Right.
summertime tourism industry, they are wonderful for us because it does give a place for them to stay, but we probably are going to need to think about what kind of oversight does this need to have. We're very thankful that Airbnb has worked with the state of Washington to go ahead and collect the lodging tax and various taxes from the people that list with them, and they will collect those monies and deliver them to the Department of Revenue. We haven't exactly seen how that's going to work yet, but this is definitely an issue that's bubbling up here.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Jeffries.
This VRBO, vacation rental by owner, issues come up before, and I think you're just being taken advantage on that. We'll call it a veil over, really, the objective is to run a business and and charge money that you will get the county will not get any revenue directly. There are no taxes. This is all under the table stuff. Cash or check. So there's no, the tourism concept, absolutely support that. I mean, again, we're not against divers. We're not against people doing what they're supposed to be doing, but this is clearly a violation. This is not vacation rental by owner. So appreciate all your efforts.
Yeah, and we should contact the Department of Revenue.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's lodging taxes that are not being collected, obviously, if this is being run as a motel, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And so we can contact the Department of Revenue as well.
That would be great.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you both.
Walton. Appreciate you being here. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Mr. Davis.
Thank you, and good morning, Commissioners. Tom Davis, 170 West Bushy Road. Mason County is open for business. That's been the war cry here for quite some time. And as you can see, it has an upside and it has a downside. And that's usually an issue that you weigh on its merits on an individual case-by-case basis. And with that in mind, I'd like to just bring to your attention, well, obviously to bring to citizens' attention, that there's been some restructuring going on in the county. And part of, and parcel of that restructuring has been to streamline the permitting process and to streamline the process by which businesses can open in Mason County. And part of that process has been to put the Department of Community Development and Public Health under one director. That's an unusual step, and toward that end, there have been 59 applicants for the position of the director, because they usually were two separate departments, and the salary is significant, somewhere between $105,000 and $120,000 a year plus benefits. That's all well and good, and certainly within your purview and your authority to do these restructuring. But the public has been left out of this process almost from day one. And the process I'm talking about specifically is the process of the candidates who applied for this position. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had heard some presentation about why this has occurred, but I would say that it should be the intent of the commissioners to see how much information they can share, not how much information they can hold back. We have quite a few closed session meetings in this county, more than I can see in other counties, and we have briefings that go on for 5 hours or so, and at the bottom of each briefing is the line, "Commissioner discussion is needed." Well, after 5 hours, by that time, the only people in the room are the commissioners, and so whatever discussion happens could just as well have is kind of outside the public view, even though it is recorded, it is a public meeting. So my feeling is now, last time this candidacy was brought up, and you had talked about, this board had talked about whittling down the candidates to basically two, which you identified, I believe, as candidate 1 and candidate 3. And then you called to see, get a background check on these two candidates. So from 59 people to 2 people without any public input whatsoever, that causes me concern. As you know, we have Dr. Apostle was hired under an entirely different process where the public was encouraged to participate in that process, and Chief Darren Moody, and these are 2 just substantial human beings who have made their mark on Mason County and the city of Shelton. And that also went through a process where the public was included in that process. And my wife and I went to the Colonial House and we talked to all the candidates and we asked them questions. I mean, we felt like part. We did not feel disenfranchised. We felt like we were in it. And so they listened to us, and this was very informal, and there was maybe 60 people in the room, maybe more. But this process here has been exclusive at least in terms of the public's participation. And I have a real concern about that. When you look at this state constitution, and it's 118 pages, and the very first article and the very first is that all the power is inherent in the people, and the governments derive their just powers from consent of the government and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. State constitutionally dictates that there are 35 rights. Your job is to protect our rights, and I feel our rights have been somewhat mitigated or violated by being left out of this process. The Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 42, clearly indicates that the intent is that the people or the commissioners or the agencies or the subdivisions of the state should not dictate what the people should know and what they should not know. We give you the power to make these decisions, and it is up to your discretion, and I hope the good discretion, to include us in the process. I don't think that's happened. So now we're down to two applicants that we know of. We have no idea what other applicants might have been more appropriate for the vision that other people might have had to oversee this massive department, because we will never give them that opportunity to participate. So I air my concerns. WSU had a similar problem here where they hired a new president without basically just without the due process, and it's been in the Seattle Times, and they may have violated state law. I'm not here to pick at that particular scab. I'm here to ask for voluntary participation by the public through invitation by this commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, I'd just make a comment, if I could, Madam Chair. I agree with you that I think our commission has too many executive sessions. I would bet, and I don't have the numbers, but I bet in 2014, we had more executive sessions than I had in the first 10 years I was a commissioner. So we generally have had a discussion about labor issues, executive session, every Monday morning. I voiced my concern to Commissioner Jeffries yesterday in briefings about that. I think we should be very circumspect and very careful that we don't have executive sessions that are not called for. Because sometimes at those sessions, there's a tendency to talk about other issues. You can't do that in the Open Public Meetings Act. And I also raised a concern yesterday that I think our briefing agenda should be more structured. So if someone in the public wants to talk or listen about an issue, they would know that that issue is going to be on the agenda at a particular time. So I hope we can have better procedures here that are more inclusive of the public, because the Open Public Meetings Act, actually, we passed a bill this session. I believe the governor did sign. He vetoed a lot of bill, and we overrode a lot of vetoes too. But the new statute will call for very large fines for public officials who know that they should have an open meeting and choose to have a closed meeting. So it's getting statewide attention. So thank you.
Thank you. Sir? Mr. Selson.
For a question, please. Some of us have signed up here, but you are also accepting testimony from the audience. How
So, Mr. Seltzer, this is actually, this sign-in sheet, and perhaps it needs to be reformatted, is basically so that we have a record who is in attendance.
So if any of us that signed up on that want to speak, we raise our hand.
Please raise your hand, yeah. Does anybody else would like to address the commission? We're pretty over time, but we have such a great crowd, I don't want to shut anybody down. Ma'am?
All right. My name is Amy Wilson, and I live at 623 South 16th Street, top of Turner. And I'm here with a number of people from the Ingleside Hill community to bring a land use and development situation to your attention. I myself am a relatively new member of the Shelton community, having moved here 2 years ago. And I was drawn to Shelton for a number of reasons. Your access to the Olympics, to the ocean, to Olympia, to Seattle. It's a fantastic spot. Cost of living and housing is attractive. But a big part of my decision was the beauty of the area with its hills and the mature trees and, your historic downtown full of its hanging flower baskets. So I bought a home in the Ingleside Hill area. It's on a city street, but it's technically in the county. And I've been very happy with my decision. And then I found out that there were plans in place to log the hillside from the back of 16th Street down to Highway 101 and north to Goldsboro Creek. This is an area that would be right at the second Shelton exit and be one of the first things your tourists are going to see when they come into the town. So it would also have a negative impact on the Ingleside Hill community itself. The logging trucks would be going up Turner, which from everything I've heard from people who know much more than I, is not designed to support those trucks. We would have increased road noise from Highway 101 and increased wind and dangerous conditions for the neighborhood's many older growth trees. Many of those houses are surrounded by large trees, and they're going to lose that windbreak from the woods that are back there. And of course, it would lend a generally blighted look to the homes in the area for some time to come. But the biggest impact would be to the logged area itself. There's a great diversity of trees in that spot, including some older growth. There are existing trails from Turner down to the creek that people have been walking for decades, taking their kids and their dogs down into that environment. It's perfect for a nature preserve or a community park. We have learned that Mankey Lumber is willing to sell the property. Capital Land Trust was working to raise the money to preserve it. The Squaxin Indian tribe was interested in it because of the salmon-bearing Goldsboro Creek issues. And of course, the city itself has an interest in the property as part of its urban growth, parks and recreation strategy. And that trail could be connected with Ravenna and out to the other Goldsboro Creek Trail. So you could create a unique walking experience through that. Bottom line, we in the community would like the city and the county to work with the Land Trust and Menke and those of us in the community to find a mutually beneficial way to create a beautiful public space for future generations. We're asking that action be taken now, before the logging commences, because once the old trees are gone, that opportunity will be lost forever. We met as a group yesterday and spoke to the city commission as well. We had a large group there. It's harder to get people here during working hours. And we're forming an organization to do whatever we need to do to help you in that endeavor. We believe the problem has a solution. We just all need to sit down, be forward thinking, and work out a plan to make it happen, and a timeline. In pursuit of that solution, I would ask you to let us in the community know what we can do to support you, because we are very motivated to help you find a solution that works for everyone. Thank you.
First I've heard of this, and I just spoke with Amanda Reed from Capital Land Trust just 2 weeks ago, and she did not bring this to my attention.
We've been speaking to Lawrence Reeves. He's very aware of it.
My assumption is it's in the urban growth area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Obviously, if we take land out of the urban growth area, we have to find replacement land someplace else, because the intention is that all development will happen in the urban growth area, and especially the intensive development.
Well,
so.
this isn't development. This is just
Well, I
logging.
understand, but to deny somebody the, if you're going to purchase the land, obviously you've taken it out of development, unless there's some sort of thing happening. So, generally, this means that there needs to be some legislative appropriation, generally through the Recreation Conservation Office, which is funded through a legislative appropriation, and then Capital Land Trust is very good at getting these monies. And the time frame for that could be longer than Mr. Menke's willing to wait. So did he ever give you a time frame of how quickly all this has to come together?
I believe he waited quite some time, or not quite some time. He's already waited some time. He did finally bring some dozers and things up there and put in part of a road, but then he pulled out. So we're hoping that he's still willing to wait. But the thing is, when we call the city, they say it's in the county. When we call the county, they say, well, we didn't get to comment on the forest practice, application. So what we're trying to do as a community is get all the stakeholders to the table so that a timeline could be worked out. So we know how long Menke's willing to wait. So we know how much money we can raise. So we know how many organizations might be able to provide funding.
Well, one thing I might say, I did talk to Menke this morning. So they have a permit from the Department of Natural Resources, and they have not checked the box saying that they are converting the property to another purpose. So it's a silviculture, it's a forestry operation. If they had checked the box that they were going to convert the property to some other use, then the county gets involved. So the county is not involved in forest practice permits that are countywide unless there's a conversion of that property to another use. So they explained to me that they had talked to Capital Land Trust, and as you mentioned, they talked to the tribe as well, but both organizations had passed on the opportunity to purchase the property. So that's what I heard, that they had either it was lower priority or it was not able to do it. So they have the permit in hand, and I think without looking into all the details, it sounds like they have all the rights in the world to harvest.
Yeah, I understand they have the rights, and the Capital Land Trust organization couldn't get it in this budget cycle. So what we're trying to do is find what is the next budget cycle and what other agencies might be able to pick in. I mean, we in the community are willing to help, maintain it. We're willing to do a GoFundMe. We're willing to, we're willing to do whatever you tell us is an option. I understand what you're saying about not being able to review the permit, but at least you knew, how that system works, and we don't. So that's why we need your support.
Well, I understand, but I mean it's private property, and they have a permit. So we're government. We do other things too, but I can't say that that the county has a role in this. If it's, the owner chooses to get a DNR permit and that permit is granted, that's their right to harvest what they're allowed to, up to what they're allowed to, so.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission?
One more.
Mr. Salzer.
Amy, my name is Dave Salzer. I live at 427 South 16th in Shelton. Our property overlooks the primary logging area. We're at the end of 16th and the county side. I had more comments to make, but I'll make one here if it has any standing in your opinion. Both the city and the county have dedicated parks and recreation staff. I'm suggesting investigating the possibility, because it's in the county, but you get there through the city kind of thing. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm suggesting that the possibility of those two staff systems get together and see if there's any opportunity to do some cooperative, excuse me, work on figuring out some options here. Commissioner Sheldon and I 100% agree with the permitting the rights, all of that. It's an emotional issue for the people that live there, but in my opinion, it has a irreplaceable community identity issue, and we only have one chance to fix it. I hope we can find some common ground to make something work. Thank you.
Well, I hope you'll have conversations with the landowner, because that's
Yes,
the way
yes,
to get
you are
there.
correct.
It's got to be,
100%.
the landowner has to be
Yeah.
willing. I mean, it's a willing buyer, willing seller kind of
I
a
understand that.
situation, it seems.
I would echo that these discussions need to happen, I mean, at least to find out what is this time frame. Because we have tried to do some other work with private landowners who say, you know, I don't have forever to wait, but you know the government takes a long time, especially if we're talking about acquisition of land and very high dollar type of things, and even coming up with a new park when we've got, both entities have 20-year park plans. So what we need is the landowner to be willing to wait out the whole governmental process of land acquisition. So that's a long, long, long process.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, did you want to address the commission? And then we probably need to stop it there because we are an hour into this
My
meeting.
name is Alan Radke. I live on the hilltop as well, 1536 on May Avenue, which is right across the street. I wrote a letter and had most of Hilltop sign it. I don't know, 50 people or so. I called up Mr. Mankey, talked to him, very congenial.
Which Mankey did you talk to?
The one at the, up on Fairmont.
Joel?
I don't know the name, I don't remember. I just don't remember. But I talked to him, I took the letter up to the office and gave it to them.
Okay.
I also took a letter to the radio, took a letter to the newspaper, and also the land trust we've been talking about. I've been in contact with them. They said they're not finished with this yet. They're still in dealing with them. Now, Mr. Mankey, the Mankeys have been lots of charity around town. You see their name everywhere. They do lots of good things. The whole family does good. He was very congenial with me. He says, I have the permits. We could cut the timber tomorrow. But he says, we probably won't. We probably will cut it within a year. Probably. He says, we don't plan on building for now. We don't plan on building for now. What we want to do is farm it. And that's all fine and good. My letter was, our letter was, it's not too late to wait. And I think that's what those of us in the Hilltop Committee are talking about is, Mr. Mankey, wait. Let's talk this out. I used to live in Olympia, and I've been here since '92. There's a beautiful park there named Watershed. Most of you know where it is. In the 1940s and 50s, the city was going to cut that place down to nothing and build houses. 60, 70 years later, that beautiful park is still there, surrounded by these monstrous homes with old-growth timber, beautiful place. That hilltop, in 20 years from now, there's going to be houses all over the place. This place is going to grow fast, but that place up there can be like Watershed and be the same, and Mankey can go down in posterity, and the rest of us go down posterity. Look what we saved. California developer is going to come in here and lop down all the trees. Go to Walmart in Lacey and see what's happening out at Marvin Way. Scalping the land. Everything's being scalped, brothers and sisters. Where I live, there's a few trees left. That is a beautiful place up there. Mr. Mankey, I left him with that letter, and he was very congenial with it. Wait. What's the hurry? Wait. Let's get together and talk this out and save it for posterity. 10 years I'm going to be gone. Many of us are going to be gone, but it's our children that are going to see this beautiful park that we saved. Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and close the public input portion because we have gone way over time, and I just really do appreciate folks being here. I want to speak to the group that came down, especially regarding this hanging of the national motto. We do a lot of very very tense decision-making here. And for that very reason, I wanted to have that in front of my eyes. And so that is where that is. I appreciate that you folks appreciate that it's being hung there. When I took the oath of office, I took the oath to adhere to the laws of the federal government, the state government, as well as the county government. And I would extend that to our mottos as well. And so I appreciate that you folks support this. I'll be honest with you, for this is for me, because these decisions I make up here, I want to make sure I'm in His will. So thank you very much for your decision. We're going to move on now to item number 6, the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the agenda as presented today.
And I'll second that motion. It's moved and second to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, we have several sets of meeting minutes today to approve. I would move the approval of the February 22nd, 2016 briefing minutes and the March 22nd, 2016 regular meeting minutes.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the February 22nd briefing minutes and the March 22nd regular meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. The next item is the approval of the action agenda. Each of these agendas are intended to be approved with one motion. However, you will have an opportunity after they've been read to ask any questions on any of the items on the agenda. Alternatively, you also have the option to ask that any of the items be removed for a separate vote and for testimony. And the same issue, or the same privilege is given to the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Sheldon, would you please read items 8.1 through 8.4, and I will read the rest of the items.
All right. Madam Chair, 8.1 begins approval to appoint Cheryl Ann Dunning to the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council for a term ending December 2018. 8.2, approval of the Veterans Assistance Fund applications for necessity items, $900, utilities, $1,275.53, and housing, $2,150, for a total of $4,325.53, as recommended by the Veterans Service Office. 8.3, approval for the board to approve and execute the contract between Mason County and Mason County Fire District 11 to provide fire protection and emergency medical services at the Public Works Facility property. And 8.4, approval to set a public hearing on April 19, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. to consider the sale of real property located at 92 Anthony Road, Belfair, parcel 22129-75-90092 and 93 Anthony Road, Belfair, parcel 22129 through -75-90013 for the price of $21,000 to Nicolay and Elena Nutu.
Item 8.5 for approval of warrants. Claims Clearing Fund warrants number 8038203 through 8038473 for a total amount of $1,107,225.02. Claims Clearing Fund warrants numbers 803-8773 through 803-9060, total amount of $1,605,914.56. The Direct Deposit Fund warrants numbers 30093 through 30472 for a total amount of $630,407.63, and the Salary Clearing Fund warrants number 7001777 through 7001805 for a total amount of $459,405.62, for a total approval today of $3,802,952.83. Year-to-date claims clearing has been $5,806,280.24. Our direct deposit year-to-date total $3,107,143.29. For salary clearing year-to-date total of $2,280,175.42 so far year-to-date to run county government. 8.6, approval of the professional services contract between Mason County and Education Service District, ESD 113, for an amount not to exceed $20,000 to provide substance abuse prevention services to Mason County schools. 8.7, approval of the January 2016 through December 2018 collective bargaining agreement for Teamsters Union Local Number 252, representing Mason County Probation Services employees. And then finally, item 8.8, approval for the chair to sign a one-year contract with Thomson Reuters West for Law Library Wireless Online Patrol Access, Westlaw Next, for up to 3 concurrent users for a total of $1,353 per month. It's not exactly how we talked about that one. I'm going to change that.
$1,353, I think.
Okay, approval for the chair to sign I'm going to restate item 8.8. Approval for the chair to sign a one-year contract with Thomson Reuters West for Law Library Wireless Online Patrol Access, Westlaw Next, for up to 3 concurrent users in an amount not to exceed $1,420.65 per month plus tax. This contract will be effective through March 2017. Having read through those items, is there anybody that has any questions on the items just read? Commissioner?
No.
Any items that anybody would like pulled for a separate vote? Commissioner? And I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve all 8 items, 8.1 through 1.8 on today's action agenda.
And I'll second that motion. It's moved and seconded to approve items 8.1 through 8.8 on today's action agenda. Is there any discussion? I would like to just thank our Human Resources Department for the approval for the hard work on getting a collective bargaining agreement approved for the probation services employees. These labor discussions have been extremely fruitful. There was a comment earlier about too many closed sessions. These labor discussions and these labor agreements that we've had through these last 3 years since I've been a commissioner have been extremely successful, and I think it has to do with a lot of communication on these very issues. And so I thank everybody, both on the Teamsters side and the Human Resources side and the management side, for your work on that. Go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, and that is today's action agenda. We have no public hearings. We do have item number 10 next, which is an opportunity for department heads or elected officials to address the commission. I don't see either of them in the room. I see one. I do that to you every time. Sorry about that. We have our interim director, Public Works. Is there anything you'd like to address the commission on? Okay, thank you. And Frank, do you have anything? Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to our board reports and calendars. This is an opportunity to share with each other and the public where we've been and some of the issues where we have represented the county on other boards we sit on. Commissioner Sheldon, would you like to start?
Sure. Madam Chair, I just want to make a comment on a week past here. Friday the 18th, I was able to attend the county risk pool meeting. No, it wasn't the 18th. It was the 25th. County Risk Pool meeting in Pasco, with our 16 counties. So there were some seminars, and Julie and Don were there as well, and were able to go to the seminar. I wasn't able to make it for that. I did the extended board meeting in the afternoon, or morning. But the seminar was about jail suicide. And of course, this is an issue for all the counties that belong, and I think that what I heard anyway, that the meeting was very productive. And the risk pool will be over here in, I can't remember the exact date, but we will have a visit again, and an opportunity for individuals here, county employees, to attend their workshop, which will be held up at the Public Works Building. So
Is it a variable topic, or is there one particular topic?
Can't remember exactly today what that is, but we'll get the dates for you. It's upcoming, so for our county employees. And usually we have about 30 people that will attend from the different departments. So, and we have a new director, and got to meet him, and things are changing. Obviously, Burl, the old director, been there about 15 years, something like that. So a lot of changes there. Then was back in Olympia last week till we finally adjourned. So I missed our meeting at Belfair on the 29th, and I understand there was some discussion about the Highway 3 and the widening work. So I did have a conversation with Michelle Britton before the meeting, talked to her, and I've had a discussion with our chair, Curtis King of the Senate Transportation Committee, about our desire to not only complete Phase 1, but complete Phase 2 as well, because it was, there was an appropriation made, and then the project was phased and shortened. So he's looking into it as to that process. I wasn't able to amend our supplemental budget with that item. It's pretty spendy.
Did you say that it was $28 million?
About $26 million, I believe, to finish the widening project. So that's going to be a priority, and I gave that to the chair, so hopefully next year we'll start dealing with that. It's all about promises made and promises kept. There's those bonds have been sold, and some of that money has been moved to other projects that were ready to go. Obviously, our widening wasn't ready to finish. We're still behind on the first phase, basically because of what you heard, I think, was water issues and the high water table. So I'm still hopeful that we will be able to complete the whole project. Then we did adjourn finally. I think it was on the 30th, and Governor signed the budget, capital budget, the transportation budget, and general operating budget. All supplemental budgets, and we did mention the funds that are there for the Mason County for the Veterans Assistance, $206,000. I think there's some money that comes into the 35th District, and then the 23rd is very close for the Turner Joy project out in Bremerton to have that ship rehabbed. I think it's going to take about $1 million to finish it, but started on that, and then some money for the skill center that's up on the edge there of our district with 26th District inside Port Orchard for some upgrades to the skill center. So those were a couple of the highlights of the capital. And I attended a seminar on Thursday, which is very interesting about Endangered Species Act, forestry management issues, and put on by the seminar, which is out of National Island. So it was well attended with people from Fort Blakely, were there, several of the larger timber companies, and Nature Conservancy was there as well. Made a very good presentation. So doing that, and of course yesterday we had our briefings and commission meeting today. So
thank you very much. Let's see, following last week's meeting we're going to go back to 2 weeks because we didn't have a regular meeting. I attended the first of the EDC's industry roundtable discussions, and it was on aquaculture, and it was a very, very, very good discussion. We're probably going to have to do a follow-up one with smaller shellfish producers because the issues of the smaller aquaculture producers are not always the same as the larger Taylor shellfish, sail shellfish, etc. But there were some a really good set of issues that I think that we can work on. And there was some discussion, and I think I will be starting to work on pulling together some thoughts around a Mason County Shellfish Initiative that would mirror the Washington State Shellfish Initiative. I truly believe that aquaculture is an industry that needs to be strongly supported by our county. We are the largest producers of clams in the nation, and it is an industry I think that right now is loosely organized, and I think there's an option to create some value-added products as well as some great research and development options. So I've started some discussions with a lot of the players in this, especially those in the state level, about what are some of the initiatives that we could pull forward here in Mason County. The governor will be proclaiming June 4th through the 12th shellfish State Shellfish Week or something like that, and there is some activity that's going to happen here in this county in recognition that one of those is the Shellfish Trail that has kind of been pulled together by Washington Sea Grant. I need to get more information on that, but I think that there's a tremendous opportunity. We had our first meeting with our new director of the Mason Matters, who is Jeannie Raywald, who we stole from our WSU Extension office, and we really look forward to her leadership at Mason Matters, as the Mason Matters is going to now have the stewardship of the County Health Improvement Plan, and so that will be her focus on all of the 7 separate initiatives that are in our Community Health Improvement Plan, and being the watchdog and the steward, that those collaborative efforts move forward. Had a lunch meeting with Thurston County Commissioner Sandra Romero and talked about issues of mutual concern. The Area Agency on Aging regular Council of Governments meeting. Then we had our commissioner briefings on the 28th of March, and then attended both of the tourism roundtables put on by the EDC's industry roundtables, and some issues bubbled forward up from that already, and which was timely in that our Lodging Tax Advisory Committee will be meeting next week to talk about targeted uses of the lodging tax monies, and we saw or in the discussion in both of the meetings was a need for a term of destination management organization, and basically the thought that there's really no entity whose dedicated job is to build the tourism product. We have marketing, we have visitor information services, but building the product of cross-marketing is so essential to make sure that we are a tourism-friendly community and we have a product that people can come by, as opposed to trying to figure out for themselves what are they going to do when they get here. We create those experiences for them. And so we'll have that discussion with them, and then it'll probably show up in the final report of these industry roundtables. Met with our treasurer about a interfund loan. Had a meeting of the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization. We'll be doing a briefing next Monday about that, about trying to ascertain the level of interest that the commission have and be reporting back, since it's such a new organization. We had a meeting of our ad hoc group or task force around diversion from acute mental health and substance abuse, diversion away from our ER and jail systems, and I will also be briefing on Monday about that. And then I had a meeting with Julie Horowitz with the Governor's Shellfish Office about the Shellfish Initiative. Later on this week, we had commission meetings yesterday, met with Commissioner Christy Buck, Port of Shelton, and then we'll have our Lodging Tax Advisory Committee meeting, and meeting with the Hood Canal Quarrying Council Executive Director, and I'm back here for briefings on Monday.
So, Madam Chair, just maybe one suggestion would be on our agendas that we move the board reports and calendars up one and other business down one. In other words, what I'm thinking is that sometimes at our calendars issues come up that commissioners would like to discuss up here, and we just seem to close our books and go away after this is the last thing on the agenda. But I can think of just a few things. If you have just another minute, I'd ask questions. Then we can ask questions to each other about some of the issues. So you mentioned the diversion facility, And my question, and I raised it yesterday, is that in our capital facility plan? So to find funding for some of these projects, we need to have them in a capital facility plan, and that's something I think would be very useful to discuss, so that if funding is sought, it is at least ranked, or we see what kind of a priority it has for other things that are in the plan. At Tuesday night's fifth Tuesday meeting in Belfair, I wasn't able to attend, I mentioned because of the legislature, but there was, I believe, some discussion of a park, Sweetwater Park, right? And today we had another discussion of a potential park here in Shelton. So I think it would be very useful to update our park plans and know exactly what our priorities are for those things. And I did leave, and I don't know if it was passed out at the meeting, but I sent some copies of the email I got from the Department of Ecology about the Sweetwater Creek Park and the issues of cleanup of heavy metals and some of the other things that the Department of Ecology is aware of at that site. So I think a lot of those things need to come out as we talk about priorities, because the cost of cleanup are very staggering sometimes. Another item you mentioned, the Puget Sound shellfish. Of course, the Puget Sound Shellfish Growers Association is very active, and that might be a real good resource to talk to about the future of the industry here, because obviously that's their business. And one thing I noticed is that there's obviously a new generation coming on. Younger people with the gray hair are retiring from shellfish, and the younger kids are getting involved, and they're really marketing the product so much better than what we did in the old days. The old days it was just a wholesale product. You got paid by the gallon or paid by the bushel, and they went out the door. But the younger people realized that they could have so much more, add so much more value if you visited the Hamma, what they have outdoors there, and the amount of people that come. And so it's a new generation. So thanks for letting me talk about that. And then you mentioned the meeting with the interfund loan. What I read about it was that I didn't get the impression that the treasurer or the finance committee was very enthusiastic about the interfund loan. What did you get from the meeting?
So the discussion at the finance committee meeting was the discussion around the interest rate. The Board of Commissioners can adopt any interest rate. They are not locked into what the policies around interfund loans say. And the treasurer made it a point to say that the reason that the interest rate is higher than what we would get with what the State Department or the state treasurer would offer us is to dissuade us from making interest fund loans. And so the obvious question is why would we be dissuaded? And she said because the county government should not be having so much money in their fund balances and the various funds that we would be loaning, borrowing from ourselves and the various funds. And so it brought forth the question about, so why is the ER in our fund as high as it is? And so we need to go another step there about that. Now, what the treasurer is, we had a tremendous amount of pressure from the sheriff to purchase the vehicles that were already planned to be purchased before the adoption of the budget, because there was he reported that there was a long time frame before the delivery, and very, very concerned about the high mileage on those vehicles. And so the purchase was made before the arrangements had been made for the financing. And so that was the treasurer's concern, that had made the purchase prior to or before we actually had the financing arranged, and so we talked about timing of those things. What the sheriff's office had at the finance committee had concerns about whether or not there had been appropriated enough money by the Board of Commissioners to make the finance payments, and so the recommendation for approval of an interfund loan was held in anticipation of look at the sheriff's budget, and it was, in fact, concluded that we did provide monies in their budget for the finance payments, but they were in with other items, and so she's asking that they be separated out in principal and interest as separate line items in the sheriff's budget, so it's made very clear that these monies are intended to pay back the interfund loan.
Is that something we'll have to adopt as a commission?
So there's a question about the process of that. Generally, the sheriff's office would make a recommendation to have a fund, or have an adjustment internally in the budget. And so I know our budget manager, and he's not here at the moment, was having that discussion with the sheriff's office. Should the sheriff's office not want to make those adjustments within their own budget, then we would probably need to make a separate line item in non-departmental to make those payments for the loan.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then I think there was other topics you had brought up regarding the Sweetwater Creek Park. The Salmon Enhancement Group had been in charge of, or had done the work for the cleanup that was paid for by a grant through the EPA. There was an old service station there. And they had done the closeout of the project with EPA, signed off that it was done. However, those follow-ups had not been done with the State Department of Ecology. Mendy Harlow from the Salmon Enhancement Group reported that they probably will do some test monitoring to assure there's high arsenic levels, but there is naturally high arsenic levels in Mason County in general and in that area, just naturally occurring in our ground. But they acknowledge that there probably will be some monitoring required, and then potentially where that site is down lower topography from the pond area and stream area, and one assurance or mitigation is there was plans for an impervious surface on the parking lot area, and then normally what happens is you'll do pervious surface to kind of cap it, and given the topography, but she acknowledges that there might be some well monitoring required.
Yeah.
Or not well, but test
Because I
wells.
got from the email that the report was not concluded.
From the state level, at the federal level, yes, but whatever needed to happen at the state level.
At the state level has not been
Correct.
concluded. So moving forward, shouldn't this be in our park plan?
Well, this is actually not a park right now. The Port of Mason County. This is it could be, but if we put in our park plan parks that are owned and operated by other entities, I don't know. The Port of Allen is in discussion with the school district regarding ownership and operations of the park, and then there is a constituent who's trying to pull together discussions with the Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Fish and Wildlife, who has land in the urban growth area there in Belfair for a dry park, and could this be part of that as well as the Feller wetland area? So the ownership piece of it, will it be a Mason County park? That's never really been brought to us as a request. And if it was, then it would definitely need to go into the park plan. But if your intention, I don't know if our park plan contains parks that are, like, say, the Port of Hood Sport Park and those sorts of things, or is it just county parks? So I don't know if it needs to be in our park plan, but that's definitely a good question to ask. And then back to moving, the issue of moving our agenda around, I am open to anything. I agree.
Well, I think what it would do would give us more opportunity to have a discussion here. And what we hear from Tom Davis, we hear from other people, we hear from me too, is that I think we do too many things offline here. Maybe that we have to have more discussion in this setting, in the public setting, than in the briefings, or certainly in the executive session.
It would be nice. One of the reasons that Commissioner Netherland and I asked to have just a generic commissioner discussion agenda item on our briefing agendas, and I'm sorry if the public, can't wait us out for that, but we don't have the opportunity to caucus together. We don't get a chance to talk to each other. We could do this in these meetings and have these discussions here, but our other option is our briefing session, and plenty of governmental entities do that. And I agree that our briefing schedules could be more detailed to help people understand, but sometimes those commissioner discussion items do come up based on discussions you had, the week prior, and, to talk about the slow moving of government. If we have to wait 2 weeks to have a discussion because it needs to be agended, sometimes you miss opportunities at the very least to talk about issues that are expediently on people's minds, the community's mind, and the press, or things that are moving fast enough that you need to have some discussion. So I think we need to be sensitive to that, but I don't want to lose the opportunity for our Monday briefings to be those free-flowing discussions that we don't always get, because these meetings, you have made it very clear, these are regular business meetings and not to have the stream of consciousness discussions. So, I've tried to keep these business-like as well.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, is there anything else to go before the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Chair.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for waiting us out.